All right, so once we get through the large intestine, again, this is where we're going to have the release of waste products throughout our body. So just to help with your comprehension, it would be a good idea for you to try without your book to label these organs of digestion. Okay, some of them are really easy, like stomach. Okay, gallbladder, liver, and I want you to think about things like the epiglottis, that flap that's covering the trachea to help prevent food from going into a trachea and making sure that food is moving down our esophagus. So carbohydrate is mostly digested in our mouth and small intestine. Protein, remember, a little bit is starting in our stomach, but most is happening in our small intestine. And fats primarily happening in our small intestine. Now remember, insoluble fiber, there's no digestive action there. So like hulls of corn and bran, those will come out the same way that we put them in our body. Some seeds, there's no digestive action there, not giving us any calories, that insoluble fiber in particular. So the best description that I have for the absorption of nutrients is to think of a square room with carpet on the walls, the ceiling, and the floor. And think of like a 1970s shag carpet, okay? So the nutrients are going to pass into the cells from our small intestine through things called villi and microvilli. And that fibers of that shag carpet all around the room, those are going to attract and trap the nutrients. Okay, so it's those villi and microvilli, these tiny finger-like projections that increase absorptive capacity of our small intestine by hundredfold, thousandfold. Okay, and when nutrients get into the villi and the microvilli, what's going to happen is sugars and amino acids or proteins, those are going to transfer through the blood. Okay, those can mix with the liquid. That's an easy way to remember that, is that we have blood sugar or glucose, right? So when we eat foods that have carbohydrate, that affects our blood sugar. Okay, and now remember, fats don't mix with water and blood is mostly water. So fats are going to enter our lymph system. Okay, they can't enter the blood as it's made up mostly of water. So fats have to be packaged with proteins and released into the lymph system until they arrive at a point where they will enter the bloodstream near the heart. They can only enter the bloodstream because they're packaged with proteins, and the packaging of those proteins is called chylomicrons, and that's for another discussion when we're talking about heart health. So nutrients passing from the GI tract to the circulatory system, again, carbohydrates and amino acids are going to go through the blood and fats through the lymph because that fat and water cannot mix. Okay. The metabolism of nutrients, we have anabolism, which is building substance. So I always think about anabolic steroids and how that's building muscles. And we have catabolism, which is breaking down substances. This is happening every day, every second in our body, and it's a process in which nutrients are needed and required and used. Bioavailability of nutrients is just a term to tell us how nutrients are absorbed and used in the body. So for instance, our body absorbs only about 10% of the iron that we consume if it is non-heme or a non-animal source iron. So Jen, if you're doing your vitamin and mineral presentation on iron, this will be helpful information. Iron that comes from animal sources like steak and red meats, that has about a 20% absorption or 20% bioavailability. Interestingly, when we consume an iron-rich food with a vitamin